After a record-setting World Series and one of the most entertaining World Series we've had of all time, the Houston Astros came out on top, winning Game 7 last night 5-1 to win their first World Series in franchise history. And joining me today is loyal Houston Astros fan Jacob Hale. How are you doing today, Jacob?
I'm doing great. I'm still ecstatic over last night, man. It's awesome.
And you were telling me all season long that this was going to be the year of the Astros. How did you come up with
Yeah.
that prediction?
Well, I've been following the Astros for years. Ever since I was a little kid, I've been following this team, and I just knew there was something else about this team. Like, obviously, we had the immense talent from Dallas Keuchel and acquiring Justin Verlander to our record-setting offense. But the thing that really made me knew that this was going to be our year was the heart and the hustle of the team. Like, they never gave up. They like if you watch, like, even after Hurricane Harvey, which devastated our city, like, the heart and the fight of the players, uh, it came through, and the guys never gave up. And when you show, like, heart and hustle like that, and you never give up, then good things are going to happen. And you saw what happened last night.
Yes, and I'm also going to bring you back to the Hurricane Harvey situation. Like, there was this whole conspiracy theory about, there's like an old conspiracy that goes a long way. Like, when a natural disaster happens to a city, like, the team ends up winning the championship the following year. Like, we had the Yankees go to the World Series after 9/11. The Patriots won the Super Bowl after 9/11. The
The
Boston Red Sox won the World Series after the Boston bombing. Do you
the
think that had something to
the
do with it, or do you think this is going to be the year anyways?
the yeah. I also like to point out that the Saints, they won the Super Bowl after Hurricane Katrina.
But that was wasn't that about 6 years later, though?
Yeah, but still, it was like the first time they've, like, been good since the hurricane. So, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's like the reason why they made it, but after the city was devastated by the hurricane, the Astros are still there. They provided some relief from people that were recovering from the storm. A team for Houstonians to rally behind and support throughout the season, and our team fed off that energy and the support from Houston, and that's how they went on the hot streak at the end of the season and into the playoffs. Because if you remember, I believe we got swept in that series against the Rangers. They got moved to Tampa because we couldn't play in Houston, and that was, like, one of the low points of the season for the Astros and for me. And the way that we came back from that was just awesome.
And you are from the Houston area, like,
Yes, I've lived in Houston almost all my life. I grew up there, and I still live there. I'm just currently in Corpus Christi for college. So, unfortunately, I'm not in the middle of the celebrations and the partying right now, but I'm in there in spirit, just a few hours away.
were you devastated personally by the events of Hurricane Harvey? Being from that area, like, how did it affect you as an individual?
Well, thankfully, our family was fortunate enough not to get any flood damage from the hurricane. We were one of the few that didn't, but I know many of my friends and neighbors and fellow Houstonians, like, their houses were completely underwater, and I think almost 100 people died in the floodwaters, and it was just devastating. Like, I grew up in Houston, and that's the city that I've loved and I've lived in forever, and just seeing it in devastation after the hurricane was heartbreaking. And even though we personally didn't get flooded, the freeways and the roads in my neighborhood were all flooded, so we were trapped at home, and I just felt helpless because I couldn't go anywhere without a boat, basically. And I just wanted to, I just felt bad. I just wanted to volunteer or help out or something because our city needed it in that tough time. But it was definitely one of the, it was very inspiring to see all of Houston come together and rallying around. Because I remember around that time, that was whenever a bunch of the political drama and stuff was going on. But in
Yes,
Houston,
with Charlottesville, actually. That was, I think that happened within maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks apart.
well, yeah, there was a bunch of political tension and drama going on. But everyone in Houston, we came together as one. We put apart our differences and came together and helped one another, and including we all came together to support the Astros.
See, as somebody that went against the Astros the entire season and postseason, I mean, I respect the Astros the way they played this season. They had one of the greatest offenses of all time in baseball. I believe there was a comment in the World Series prediction video that said the Astros had the best offense within the last 50 years.
I think it's definitely, I don't know what statistic it was specifically, but there was a specific statistic that showed that our offense was right up there at the same production or even greater than the Murderers Row 1920 and 1930 New York Yankees. So that really amazed me. I knew that that our offense was great, but I didn't realize it was just as good as the Babe Ruth and the Lou Gehrig and all those guys on the Yankees and Murderers Row. It was one of the best offenses of all time. It was just amazing. I still remember the game against Minnesota on Memorial Day this year. We were down, I think it was 5-1 or something, but we came back and we ended up scoring 11 runs in the 7th or 8th inning, and that was just crazy. 11 runs, and that was one of the other moments that I knew this team was special. I think we ended up winning that game 16-8.
Would you say that was the turning point of the Astros season, or was it something else was a turning point?
Well, there were several turning points. The first one, I would say, it's kind of funny. I think it was the second week of the season. I think we were playing a road trip at the Mariners, and our offense was struggling. Our pitching had been decent at the start of the season with Keuchel and McCullers, but our offense had yet to pick up. And this was only the first or second week of the season. And I remember one of our field reporters for the TV station AT&T Southwest, that's the channel that the Astros play on, one of the field reporters, one of the things that she does whenever we go to visiting ballparks, she tries the different unique foods that the ballpark offers. So whenever we were in Seattle, it was in the 5th or 6th inning, Julia Morales, she tried these fried grasshoppers or something that they offer at Safeco Field over there in Seattle. And ever since that moment, literally the next at-bat for the Astros, the offense exploded and really took off from there. So it's been a running joke throughout the season on Astros Twitter and stuff that the grasshoppers were the turning point of the season for the offense. So that's kind of a funny story.
So take us back to when the Astros acquired Justin Verlander in late August, because this was after the hardest part of the year with the Astros, because that was around the time of Hurricane Harvey, when they were struggling. Correa was on the disabled list. I believe it was a broken thumb, was it?
Yeah, or torn ligament, but yeah.
And he was out for about 6 weeks. And that was the Astros were, I believe, they were, was it 18-33?
Where?
What was their record when Correa was out? I think it was like, were they were only like an 18-win team when he was on the disabled list?
Yeah, we were really struggling there in August and parts of July too. But I remember the Justin Verlander trade. I was like really surprised at it because whenever we failed to acquire a big name at the July 31st deadline, I thought that was it. I thought we weren't going to make any big moves, and I thought it was going to be really tough to overcome the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Red Sox and other playoff-bound teams with our mediocre starting pitching because Keuchel was injured most of the second half of the season. So was McCullers. McHugh wasn't healthy until like August, and even Charlie Morton was injured. I think all of our pitching staff, except for Mike Fiers, was injured at some point throughout the season, and that was definitely our weakness at the time. So whenever we acquired Verlander, it was crazy because the news report were going like back and forth, like, oh, we acquired him, like, oh, the deal didn't make it in time. But when it was confirmed that we got him, it was crazy. Like, because Houston has the Astros, like, they've been rebuilding for the past like 5 or 6 years or so. So we've been trading away our big stars like Roy Oswalt, Hunter Pence, Lance Berkman, all those guys. So I just haven't been used to, as an Astros fan, acquiring big all-star Cy Youngs like that in a trade. So I was in shock, and it was that gave the team life to acquiring Justin Verlander. That was another turning point of the season.
And that's also something I also want to bring up, the rebuilding process. Back in June 2014, everybody knows by now, or most people know, but there was a Sports Illustrated magazine that said the Astros would win in 2017, back in June of 2014. Do you think Sports Illustrated was also onto some with the rebuilding process? Because they benefit from number 1 draft picks in the years that they were a 100-loss team. Do you think that also could have benefited?
Yeah, the rebuilding process. Are you asking if the rebuilding process helped us?
Yes, like with getting Correa and Altuve.
Yeah,
Bregman.
that definitely helped. It's actually funny because most of our first round draft picks ended up not working out. Our three number 1 picks overall were Carlos Correa, Mark Appel, and Brady Aiken. And Carlos Correa, he's the only one who turned out to be great. Like the other two, Appel and Aiken, were busts. So we drafted Springer and Bregman. Those were the other 2 guys. But other than that, it was Jeff Lunel did a excellent job of rebuilding the farm system by signing Jose Altuve when he was just, I don't know how, he was 17 or 18 years old when he tried out for the Astros, and they signed him reluctantly because he was just a little short guy that we all know, but it ended up paying off. And the rebuilding, yeah, it just to see the players come up through the system was exciting, knowing that the future was bright with Altuve and Springer and Correa and McCullers and Bregman. It was exciting.
Well, we've got 2 final questions for you. Number 1, talk about the emotion of last night, knowing that. Let's go back to the bottom of the 9th last night. You know that you're 3 outs away from watching those Astros you've watched your entire life. They were so close to winning that first World Series for their city and their franchise. Like, what was going through your mind that bottom of the 9th, knowing that you were 3 hours away from reality that you've dreamed of your entire life?
It was surreal. Like I didn't even I couldn't think, honestly. Like, I was so nervous and shaking and pacing. Like, I was I didn't want to like count outs or anything because I was afraid that if I was going to do that, then we would blow the lead. And I waited until the final out to celebrate. But even then, like, even right now, it's surreal. I'm speechless. It's amazing.
Like, when that final out happened, like, right as soon as the ball's hit to right, but it's close enough to make a play on it. Tell us that emotion as soon as that third out was made. Because we saw what you reacted with on the Snapchat story and everything.
Yeah,
like, the emotion and the.
I think I don't remember it. I think I started jumping up and down. I screamed. I yelled in excitement, and I cried tears of joy, and it was awesome. Like I never thought that would happen. I love my team and I believed in it, but I never thought it would come to fruition, us winning the World Series.
Because you did tweet. You tweeted on July 22nd that the Astros beat the Dodgers in 7 before the Dodgers even acquired Yu Darvish or before the Astros even acquired Verlander.
That's right.
So you knew it ultimately would come down to those 2 teams.
Yeah, I mean, those were especially at the time that I tweeted that the Astros and the Dodgers were 2 of the best teams in baseball, and that was even before the Indians went on their 22 or 23 game record win streak. So that tweet didn't get much attention at the time, but the little attention that it did back in July, it mainly got laughed at. But I actually forgot that I tweeted that. So someone must have searched up Astros beating the Dodgers, and then someone found the tweet from July and retweeted it, and then that's when I saw it. I was like, whoa. But I knew at the time that it was the Astros and the Dodgers in the World Series, that it would go to 7 games, because even before the acquisitions of Verlander and Yu Darvish, that these 2 teams were talented. They had excellent offenses and were probably the 2 of the most complete teams in baseball.
All right, my final question here. I know the season just ended last night, but early 2018 World Series predictions. You can say I want to get 2 predictions from you. One, you can include the Astros, but the second one, if you can't pick the Astros to go back to the World Series, who would you think would represent the American League?
Well, first of all, I think the Astros are going to be back there. We're still at the back. We're still at the back end of our rebuilding process. We still have several high draft picks coming up through the system. Kyle Tucker and Forrest Whitley are 2 of the one of the best prospects at their respective position. Kyle Tucker is a outfielder, and Forrest Whitley is currently a starting pitcher prospect, and they're really exciting. And I think they definitely have the potential to be all-stars and MVP and Cy Young candidates in the next few years as they come up. I think Tucker will make his debut sometime early, uh, early next season, especially if we don't re-sign Carlos Beltran and Cameron Maybin, because that'll open up spots in the outfield. And then depending on how Forrest Whitley does in the minor leagues at the beginning of the season, I think he can make his debut towards the end of next season. But then again, he's only 20 years old. But I think he's special. And then there's still several other Astros prospects coming up through the system. And on top of that, we still have guys like Altuve, Correa, Bregman, Springer, McCullers. All of these guys are still under club control for at least 1 or 2 or 3 more years. So we have the pieces still in place to repeat and more players on the way. So I'm really confident in picking the Astros again next year. But if I had to choose another team to represent the American League, I think probably either the Red Sox or the Yankees. Both of those franchises, they're building back up again, and I think they just need to have a few more of their younger players mature into their full potential, and then they'll be even more dangerous than they were this season, and they'll provide an even tougher challenge for the Astros in the coming seasons. And I'm looking forward to that, because anyone who watched the World Series this year knew that it was one of the most entertaining and exciting World Series of all time. And those games this past week in the World Series are the reason that we love baseball, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it next season.
All right. So I'm going to end it right there. If there's any more you want to add, Jake, go ahead. Go ahead, bud. You're the man of the hour. Or should I say the half hours or the 22-minute mark?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how excited and proud I am of my team, because, like you were saying, I've been a diehard fan my whole life, and sticking with the team and watching every single one of their games in the 2011 through 2013 seasons, when we were the worst team in baseball, losing over 100 games per season. It was rough to do. Like, it was like there weren't very many Astros fans. Like you see all of the support that Houston's getting now, but back then it was tough to watch, and even I can admit that it was hard to watch them sometimes. But I knew that better days were to come, and I stuck with them. I believed in them, and my dreams come true. And the Houston Astros won the World Series last night.
And there's honestly an old saying for me, actually. I personally believe that... I'm still
wrapping my mind around it, honestly.
I personally believe that everybody should at least get to watch their favorite team win one championship before they pass. Like, that's my opinion on that. I mean, even Cleveland Browns fans should get to watch their team win one championship before they pass. Agree.
They'll get it someday. It might be a while, but I think the Browns will get there someday.
All right, so I'm going to end that there. Thank you for joining me today, Jake. I really appreciate it. Kind of on a little bit of short notice, but I knew how much this meant to you, and I wanted to make sure that you got your chance.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and go Astros.
Right. So, share this with your friends and family. Like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you next time. Have a great day, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys.